D.C. has now had as many homicides as it did in all of 2020, and it's only November 15th. We are on track to see the highest number of murders in nearly 20 years.
D.C.'s police chief tells the News 4i team stopping the outbreak of gun violence is his #1 priority. And one way he's trying to do that is by working to get guns off our streets, including in the very area where this morning's murder happened.
Our investigative reporter Jody Fleischer has more in tonight's Gun Violence, a Call to Action report.
With some of the toughest gun laws in the country, D.C. police have already recovered more than 1,900 guns this year. The chief calls it dangerous and frustrating work because the officers know many of the same criminals will be right back out there with a new gun days later. So how do you stop it? We hit the streets to find out.
As long as we make it home, okay?
As Shemaya King walks her 3 children home from school just a block off Alabama Avenue, she says it's one of the few things they all do outside.
Me losing myself or one of my children, that's my biggest fear.
She's lived most of her life here in Southeast, where she hears gunfire almost every day.
That's what it is. This is what I brought up to. This is what I've known. So unfortunately, this is what I'm used to. But for my kids, no, I don't want them to get used to that. I don't want them to see that and think it's okay.
Of the 1,900 plus guns MPD has recovered this year, nearly 800 guns were in Southeast. Alabama Avenue is a hotspot, but no quadrant is immune. The I-team mapped the entire district and found another high concentration area along Benning Road in Northeast. That quadrant has seen more than 500 guns recovered. How easy is it to get a gun in the district?
Too easy. We've had individuals that we've arrested with a firearm. They get out of prison and within 24 to 48 hours are in possession of another firearm.
D.C. Police Chief Robert Contee says the number of people shot in the district is actually down in 2021, but those shootings have been deadlier with increased firepower, long guns, and trigger switches. The district will end the year with the highest number of homicides since 2004. More than 82% have been shootings.
I want to get guns off the street and I want to get violent people off the street.
But he says instead of searching entire groups of people they encounter, his gun recovery unit has shifted to be more intelligence-based, which helps build community trust.
It could be based on a tip that comes in from a resident. It could be based on informant information. It could be based on the investigation that we have. It could be based on gunshots that happened last night.
Kids are getting hurt. Innocent bystanders getting hurt. They need to just cut all this violence away.
Charlene Butler lives on a quiet street just a block from Benning Road and has watched the violence grow.
When I was coming up, it wasn't no guns, it was these. Now these new generation kids out here, they don't know. It's terrible.
The I-team found police have arrested at least 10 teenagers for murder in the district so far this year. 12 teenagers have been killed by gunfire. Police say all of these guns were recovered from teens.
We need to start talking to our young people, younger age, about conflict resolution. Many of the violence that we see oftentimes is the result of some petty dispute that is mind-boggling.
And he says that isn't just a job for officers. It requires intervention like the police cadet program for high schoolers, violence interrupters, and other trusted members of the community who steer teens away from guns.
One of the things I've been frustrated with in our city is that we have not had just a comprehensive strategy around gun violence.
D.C. Councilman Charles Allen chairs the committee which oversees public safety and just budgeted $400,000 for a district-wide plan to combat gun violence. D.C. hired its first director of gun violence prevention in February.
Violence doesn't just come out of nowhere, and we've got to be able to answer those tough questions, be able to hear the answers, and then invest in our response to that. Just sending the officer in to go get the gun and then do the same thing tomorrow, do the same thing next week, then we're not doing anything different.
Chief Contee welcomes the partnership, but says social programs and police can't be the only answer. Criminals who choose gun violence must be held accountable by prosecutors and judges.
It's very frustrating for the officers. It's very frustrating for me. A lot of times, I will ask, after these significant gun recoveries, hey, what's this person's status Monday morning? What's this person's status Tuesday morning? And you see released.
Contee says the one thing he can guarantee is even when that happens, the gun and bullets his officers seized won't hurt anyone else. A small comfort for Shemaya King.
All I'm trying to do is to protect my children, so that's all I can do. So many kids dying, so many people dying just by gun violence, period. Put down the guns.
Chief Conte says he met with the new U.S. attorney about a week ago, and they discussed the need for tougher prosecutions of people caught with guns. He even wants those arrested to stay in jail while awaiting trial. He said that will keep the community safer and send a message that these cases will be taken seriously.
Tucked away in a busy alleyway near Barracks Row in Southeast D.C., you'll find a large mural.
This is called the Limestone of Lost Legacy.
Remembering 5 teenagers, all shot and killed during the school year in 2018. Paris Brown, 19 years old then, an aspiring poet, a student at Thurgood Marshall Academy, is one of them.
It just gives me a safe space to come.
His mother, Siditra, visits the mural each July to mark his birthday.
When I see my son up here, he always said that he wanted to be a young legend.
But there's much more to this family story, as the News 4 I-Team found when we met with this D.C. mom at the recreation center where her 3 sons grew up and played sports and dreamed about the future.
Where I used to come and see them play baseball.
She remembers the moment she arrived at the scene of Paris's killing in January 2018 on Skyland Place, Southeast.
I was numb. So it's just like, I'm hearing it, I'm saying it, but I'm not registering it.
But for Siditra Brown, losing Paris, her youngest son, at such a young age, it was just the beginning.
Montre was a good person. He's a great father, a great son.
A year later, in April 2019, someone shot and killed her oldest son, Montre, along Wagner Street.
I really never registered the death of both of them. I just put it in my mind like, they away. And I'm gonna see them again.
Then this past August, amid the most recent surge in gun violence in the nation's capital,
that was my golden child.
A third devastating loss. Her middle son, Khalif, shot multiple times and killed while in his car along 14th Street Southeast.
And this is the picture of all 3 of them together.
Her 3 sons, all gone within 3 years of each other. None of the shooters found.
No suspects, no arrests?
No suspects, no arrests.
Her son's killings are a sign of a relentless series of gun crimes in D.C., she says. And she's not the only one saying that.
Residents and neighbors do not deserve to be torn apart by senseless acts of violence. It is time for us to say enough is enough.
A News 4 I-Team review of D.C. police records shows August, the month Khalif died, was the second deadliest so far this year, with 23 homicides. October had the most deaths, and arrests have not been made in nearly 60% of the homicide cases.
But Siditra Brown has seen this violence from both sides, and her story shows the cycle of violence behind this wave of gun crimes that can be particularly difficult to break.
All of them have made bad choices in their life. That still don't make them bad people. They're still human beings.
Montre had a history of drug crimes, and Khalif served time for a gun crime himself after pleading guilty to robbery. Siditra says she has no idea if that case has any connection to Khalif's murder 5 years later.
I never would say, oh, my son did not do this, he did not do that, but they just made bad choices in their life. But they still overcame it and still was on the right path before their death.
A D.C. police spokesperson tells the I-Team these 3 homicide cases remain open and under investigation.
How do you get through the day when you've lost 3 sons?
Just look at their pictures and always remember their smile. I still have grandkids to look after. I still have daughters to look after. And once I break down, they're going to break down. So I have to stay strong to hold my family together right now.
She's urging community leaders and parents to find more activities for teens to keep them busy and occupied and away from crime and away from guns. She says each time she hears of another killing, it brings back her reality.
It's a feeling I get in my chest that I've been through the same thing.
She wants to know who pulled the triggers that took her sons and why. But there's one thing this mom doesn't want: vengeance.
You sound like somebody who's ready to forgive whoever killed them.
Yeah, I will forgive him if I knew who it was. I've been forgave them. But I want to literally tell them in their face, I forgive you.
A sign of hope and mercy from a woman for whom D.C.'s gun crimes taken so much. Scott McFarland, News 4 IT.
If you have any information about the shootings of Brown's sons, you're asked to please contact the D.C. police. And if you want to read more about the family, you can visit our NBC Washington app, click Investigations.
Ghost guns have no serial number, require no background check, and can sometimes even evade a metal detector. D.C. police have found them at murder scenes and on kids as young as 13. The I-Team tracked the data and found a record number of ghost guns already recovered in the district this year.
This is something that we should really continue to be concerned about.
Ghost guns are just as deadly as the ones made by gun manufacturers. The only difference, you buy or make the parts and then put it together yourself. Gun-making kits are easy to find online with step-by-step instructions, but because they're homemade, the ghost guns contain no serial number.
It makes it more difficult when you talk about firearms that, that we're not able to trace.
That makes it almost impossible for detectives to track who owned a gun before the moment officers found it, which can be challenging in tying suspects to a crime. In September, a ghost gun was found after this triple homicide on Longfellow Street.
The guns in the wrong hands of people who shouldn't have them certainly are the problem.
And one that's growing exponentially. The I-Team tracked the numbers. In 2018, only 25 ghost guns recovered in the district. In 2019, that jumped to 116. Last year, they more than doubled to 282. And this year, we've already passed that with another month and a half to go.
It's something we've been working on our laws to help make them tighter and to really make sure that we crack down on that. We've given the Attorney General more authority that he's now exercising to go after these people who try to sell these kits online.
D.C. Councilman Charles Allen chairs the Committee on Public Safety and says ghost guns are a nationwide problem that needs a nationwide solution.
We have tough gun laws, but remember, we're a fairly small place surrounded by jurisdictions that do not share the same values or the same laws. And so those guns come in from outside the district.
Hobbyists and collectors argue they build their own guns for legal purposes, and the federal government has so far held that gun parts aren't subject to the laws that regulate actual guns until they're fully assembled.
You have people now who have gone into the business of making their own firearms from gun pieces.
And Chief Conti also worries about who's buying the ghost guns. The I-Team found of the 280 ghost gun arrests so far this year, nearly 100 have been teenagers.
It's something that our young people easily have access to, criminals easily have access to, and we find ourselves in these situations where we're seeing members of community who are on the receiving end of this gun stuff.
D.C.'s police chief and the mayor are expecting to announce a new effort to target ghost guns in the district in collaboration with the ATF next week. Jody Fleischer, News 4 I-Team.
Now, the I-Team created an interactive map where you can see where guns have been recovered by D.C. police this year. To check it out, visit our NBC Washington app and click on Investigations.